How are you guys doing? Today is Saturday, March 5th, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review yesterday's Elite matchups and performances that took place on Friday, March 4th. And of course, I'm going to preview everything that's going on today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. Taking a quick step back and looking at where we are in the calendar year, we are at the end of the college basketball regular seasons as the seasons are ending this weekend, right before we get into conference tournaments. Some conference tournaments are already underway. Looking at the NBA, now that we are through All-Star Weekend, teams are in their final push as they are trying to go towards the playoffs. And of course, looking at what's going on with soccer, we are in the second half of European schedules as we are entering yet another weekend as teams are starting to come to the end of their seasons as well. With that said, looking at the only ranked college basketball team to play yesterday, the 22nd ranked Murray State Racers would end up hosting the unranked Southeast Missouri State Redhawks in the Ohio Valley Championship semifinal game. Murray State would end up beating Southeast Missouri State 88-74. They won by 14 after outscoring the Redhawks by 20 in the first half. On the winning end of this matchup, the 22nd ranked Murray State Racers were led in scoring by their starting forward, KJ Williams. He finished with 29 points and 10 rebounds. He shot 10 for 16 from the field, 4 for 6 from 3, and 5 for 7 from the foul line. Their starting guard, Tevin Brown, finished with 26 points, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. He shot 9 for 17 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3 as well. With this win, the 22nd ranked Murray State Racers are 29-2. They are now 18-0 in the Ohio Valley Conference. And of course, with this loss, the unranked Southeast Missouri State Redhawks are now sitting at 14-18. They are now, after they had finished their season with an 8-9 record within the conference. Taking a look now at what's going on today, because today will be Saturday. It looks as though the OVC, the Ohio Valley Championship final, will be today at 8:30 on ESPN2, as 22nd ranked Murray State is going to face off against unranked Morehead State after Murray State had finished their season with an 18-0 record, undefeated record in the Ohio Valley Conference. Taking a look at the games that are going to be taking place today outside of them, at 12 o'clock on Fox in Hinkle Fieldhouse, 11th ranked Villanova is going to visit unranked Butler. Villanova enters this matchup with a 15-4 record in the Big East. At the same time, at noon, the 13th ranked Tennessee Volunteers are going to host the 14th ranked Arkansas Razorbacks in Thompson Bowling Arena. Tennessee enters this matchup. Both teams actually enter this matchup with a 13-4 record in the SEC. At the same time, at 12 on CBS, the 25th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide are going to go to Baton Rouge to face off against unranked LSU. Alabama enters this matchup with a 9-8 record in the SEC. At 1 o'clock on SEC Network, the 5th ranked Auburn Tigers are going to host unranked South Carolina in Auburn Arena. Auburn enters this matchup with a 14-3 record in the SEC. At 2 o'clock on CBS, the 7th ranked Kentucky Wildcats are going to go to Gainesville to face off against unranked Florida. Kentucky enters this matchup with a 13-4 record in the SEC. At the same time, at 2 o'clock, the 8th ranked Purdue Boilermakers are going to host unranked Indiana in Mackey Arena as Purdue enters this matchup with a 13-6 record in the Big Ten. At 3 o'clock, 12th ranked Texas Tech is going to go to Stillwater to face off against unranked Oklahoma State. Texas Tech enters this matchup with a 12-5 record in the conference. At 4 o'clock, the 6th ranked Kansas Jayhawks are going to host 21st ranked Texas in Allen Fieldhouse in Lawrence, Kansas. Kansas enters this matchup with a 13-4 record in the Big 12. Texas enters this matchup with a 10-7 record in the conference. At 5 o'clock, the second-ranked team in the nation, the Arizona Wildcats, are going to host unranked Cal in McHale Center. Arizona enters this matchup with a 17-2 record in the Pac-12. At 5 o'clock on Fox, the 18th ranked UConn Huskies are going to host unranked DePaul from Gampel Pavilion in Storrs, Connecticut. UConn enters this matchup with a 12-6 record in the conference. At 6 o'clock on ESPN2, the third-ranked defending champs Baylor Bears are going to host the unranked Iowa State Cyclones. Baylor enters this matchup with a 13-4 record in the Big 12. At 6 o'clock on ESPN, my alma mater, the fourth-ranked Duke Blue Devils, will host the unranked North Carolina Tar Heels in Cameron Indoor Stadium. This will be Coach K's last game that he will coach in Cameron Indoor. Duke enters this matchup with a 16-3 record. And then at 10 o'clock on ESPN, 17th-ranked UCLA is going to host 16th-ranked USC in Pauley Pavilion, as this is going to be a big LA matchup. Taking a look at what's going on at the NBA level, starting off in Detroit, the Pistons hosted the Indiana Pacers. The Pistons beat the Pacers 111-106. They won this matchup by 5, after outscoring the Pacers by 7 in the first quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the Pacers were led in scoring by their starting point guard, former NBA Rookie of the Year Malcolm Brogdon. He finished with 26 points and 5 rebounds in 36 minutes. He would go on to shoot 9 for 23 from the field, 2 for 5 from 3, and 6 for 8 from the foul line. Their starting forward, Isaiah Jackson, would finish with 12 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 blocks. In 27 minutes, he shot 4 for 10 from the field. Off the bench, their forward, Jalen Smith, finished with 12 points and 11 rebounds in 29 minutes. He shot 5 for 12 from the field and made one of his 2 free throw attempts. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Detroit Pistons were led in scoring by their starting small forward, Saddiq Bey. Bey finished with 25 points in 36 minutes. He shot 8 for 15 from the field, 6 for 8 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Their starting point guard and number 1 overall pick in last year's draft, Cade Cunningham, finished with 20 points and 9 rebounds in 32 minutes. He shot 8 for 20 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Detroit Pistons are now 17-47. That is currently the second worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've now won their last 2 games, and they've won 5 of their last 10. They are currently trailing the 10th place Charlotte Hornets by 14 games in the Eastern Conference. With this loss, the Indiana Pacers are now 22-43. That is the third worst record in the East. They've lost 7 of their last 10 games. They trail the 10th place Charlotte Hornets by 9.5 games in the conference. Jumping up to Philadelphia, the 76ers hosted the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Sixers beat the Cavs 125-119. They won this game by 6 after outscoring the Cavs by 14 in the second half, outscoring the Cavs by 8 in the fourth quarter to overcome their 2-point deficit going in. On the losing end of this matchup, the Cleveland Cavaliers were led in scoring by their all-star point guard out of Vanderbilt, Darius Garland. He finished with 26 points, 4 rebounds, 19 assists, 2 steals, and 5 turnovers in 43 minutes. He shot 10 for 22 from the field, 4 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Isaac Okoro, finished with 22 points in 29 minutes. He shot 7 for 8 from the field and 8 for 9 from the foul line. Their all-star starting center out of Texas, Jarrett Allen, would finish with 20 points and 7 rebounds in 35 minutes. He shot 9 for 11 from the field and 2 for 3 from the foul line. Their small forward off the bench, Cedi Osman, finished with 20 points in 32 minutes. He shot 7 for 13 from the field, 3 for 8 from 3, and a perfect 3 for 3 from the foul line. Their power forward off the bench, Kevin Love, finished with 11 points and 10 rebounds in 26 minutes. He shot 3 for 9 from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, and he shot a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Philadelphia 76ers were led in scoring by their starting point guard out of Kentucky, Tyrese Maxey. He finished with 33 points and 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in 38 minutes. He shot 10 for 15 from the field, 5 for 6 from 3, and 8 for 9 from the foul line. Their elite starting shooting guard, James Harden, finished with 25 points, 3 rebounds, and 11 assists in 36 minutes. He shot 6 for 10 from the field, 2 for 4 from 3, and 11 for 12 from the foul line. Their elite starting center, Joel Embiid, finished with 22 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in 36 minutes. He shot 7 for 14 from the field and 8 for 9 from the foul line. With this win, the Philadelphia 76ers are now 39-23. That is the second best record in the Eastern Conference, as they've now won their last 5 games. Their 5-game winning streak is the longest active winning streak in the Eastern Conference. It's tied with the Los Angeles Clippers for the longest active winning streak in the NBA. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. They sit 2 games behind the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat, as they now sit a game ahead of the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks and the Chicago Bulls for right now. With this loss, the Cleveland Cavaliers are 36-27. That is the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've now lost their last 3 games. That is the 3rd longest active losing streak in the Eastern Conference. They've lost 6 of their last 10 games. At the moment, they sit a full game behind the 5th place Boston Celtics. They sit 2 games behind the 7th place Toronto Raptors at the moment. They trail the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 5.5 games at the moment. Jumping out to our nation's capital, the Washington Wizards hosted the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks beat the Wizards 117-114. They won this game by 3 after outscoring the Wizards by 8 in the first quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Washington Wizards were led in scoring by their starting shooting guard out of Georgia, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. He finished with 28 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists, all in 30 minutes. He shot 10 for 12 from the field. He made all 6 of his three-pointers, and he shot 2 for 3 from the foul line. Their starting small forward, Kyle Kuzma, finished with 22 points, 5 rebounds, 11 assists, and 2 blocks in 35 minutes. He shot 9 for 21 from the field and a perfect 4 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Atlanta Hawks were led in scoring by their starting small forward out of Virginia, DeAndre Hunter. He finished with 26 points in 35 minutes. He shot 8 for 12 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 7 for 7 from the foul line. Their elite starting point guard, Trae Young, finished with 25 points, 4 rebounds, and 8 assists in 34 minutes. He shot 6 for 22 from the field, 3 for 11 from 3, and he would shoot 10 for 11 from the foul line. The Hawks starting center, Clint Capella, would finish with 12 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 blocks, all in 23 minutes. He shot 5 for 9 from the field and 2 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Atlanta Hawks are now 31-32. That is the 9th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've now won their last 2 games, and they've won 6 of their last 10. They sit half a game behind the 8th place Brooklyn Nets. They sit half a game ahead of the 10th place Charlotte Hornets in the East. And they trail the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 10.5 games in the conference. With this loss, the Washington Wizards are now 28-34. That is the 5th worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they've lost 6 of their last 10 games. They sit 2 games behind the 10th place Charlotte Hornets outside of the Eastern Conference play-in picture. Jumping out to Chicago, the Bulls hosted the defending champs Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks would even the Chicago Bulls in terms of records, as they beat the Bulls by 6. They won 118-112 after they outscored the Bulls by 13 points in the fourth quarter to overcome their 7-point deficit. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Chicago Bulls were led in scoring by their all-star starting shooting guard out of UCLA, Zach LaVine. He finished with 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists in 38 minutes. He shot 13 for 26 from the field, 3 for 10 from 3, and 1 for 3 from the foul line. Their all-star starting small forward out of USC, DeMar DeRozan, finished with 29 points, 3 rebounds, and 5 assists in 39 minutes. He shot 11 for 30 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Milwaukee Bucks were led in scoring by their elite starting power forward, the reigning NBA Finals MVP, Giannis Antetokounmpo. He finished with 34 points, 16 rebounds, 5 assists, and 2 steals in 39 minutes. He shot 12 for 22 from the field, and he shot 10 for 19 from the foul line. The starting point guard out of UCLA, Drew Holiday, finished with 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 5 assists in 38 minutes. He shot 10 for 20 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. Their all-star starting small forward, Chris Middleton, finished with 22 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, and 6 turnovers in 39 minutes. He shot 9 for 15 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the foul line. With this win, the Milwaukee Bucks and the Chicago Bulls, with this loss, are now 39-25. The Bucks have won their last 3 games, and they've won 6 of their last 10. The Bulls have now lost their last 4, and they've lost 4 of their last 10. Their 4-game losing streak is the second longest active losing streak in the Eastern Conference, behind the New York Knicks. Both teams right now at 39-25 are sitting a game behind the second place Philadelphia 76ers, and they both sit a game and a half ahead of the 5th place Boston Celtics. Jumping north of the border, the Toronto Raptors hosted the Orlando Magic. The Magic beat the Raptors 103-97. The Magic won this game by 6 after they outscored the Raptors in the first 3 quarters of this matchup, outscoring them by a combined 9 points in the first half. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Toronto Raptors were led in scoring by their starting power forward, former NBA Most Improved Player of the Year, Pascal Siakam. He finished with 34 points, 14 rebounds, 2 assists, and 5 turnovers in 40 minutes. He shot 13 for 20 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and 6 for 8 from the foul line. Their starting point guard, Malachi Flynn, will go on to finish with 20 points and 8 assists in 39 minutes. He shot 7 for 14 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and 2 for 4 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Orlando Magic were led in scoring by their starting point guard, Cole Anthony, and their starting shooting guard, Jalen Suggs. Anthony finished with 15 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists in 37 minutes. He shot 5 for 14 from the field, and he would shoot 4 for 5 from the foul line. Suggs finished with 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 7 assists in 30 minutes. He shot 4 for 16 from the field and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. With this win, the Orlando Magic are now 16-48. That is the worst record in the Eastern Conference, and that is the second worst record in the NBA. They've now won 4 of their last 10 games, and now they are currently sitting 15 games behind the 10th place Charlotte Hornets out east. With this loss, the Toronto Raptors are now 34-29. That is the 7th best record in the Eastern Conference. They've lost their last 2 games. They've lost 6 of their last 10. They sit 2 games behind the 6th place Cleveland Cavaliers, and they sit 2.5 games ahead of the 8th place Brooklyn Nets. They trail the Eastern Conference leading Miami Heat by 7.5 games in the conference at this moment. Jumping to the Bayou in New Orleans, the Pelicans hosted the Utah Jazz. The Pelicans beat the Jazz 124-90. They won by 34 after they outscored the Jazz by 27 in the first half. And then on the losing end of this matchup, the Utah Jazz would be led in scoring by their elite starting shooting guard out of Louisville, Donovan Mitchell. He finished with 14 points, 2 rebounds, and 2 assists in 31 minutes. He would go on to shoot 5 for 8 from the field, 3 for 11 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the foul line. Their center off the bench, Hassan Whiteside, finished with 13 points and 12 rebounds in 16 minutes. He shot 6 for 7 from the field and 1 for 2 from the foul line. Their elite starting center out of France, Rudy Gobert, finished with 10 points and 11 rebounds in 25 minutes. He made all 4 of his shots on the day, and he shot 2 for 6 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown New Orleans Pelicans were led in scoring by their elite starting small forward out of Duke, Brandon Ingram. He finished with 29 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists, and 5 turnovers in 30 minutes. He shot 11 for 16 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard, CJ McCollum, finished with 24 points and 5 rebounds in 29 minutes. He shot 10 for 18 from the field and 2 for 3 from the foul line. With this win, the New Orleans Pelicans are now 27-36. That is the 10th best record in the Western Conference. They've now won their last 4 games. Their 4-game winning streak is the second longest active winning streak in the conference behind the Clippers. The Pelicans have won 6 of their last 10 games. They sit half a game behind the 9th place Los Angeles Lakers, and they sit a game and a half ahead of the 11th place Portland Trail Blazers, who are just outside of the play-in picture looking in. Taking a look at where the Jazz are sitting after this loss, they are now 39-23. That is the 4th best record in the Western Conference. They've only lost 2 of their last 10 games. They sit 3 games behind the 3rd place Memphis Grizzlies. They sit a game and a half ahead of the 5th place Dallas Mavericks, and they trail the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 11.5 games right now. Jumping out to Oklahoma City, the Thunder hosted the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves beat the Thunder 138-101. They would win this game by 37 points after they outscored the Thunder by 19 points in the second quarter, and they would also go on to outscore the Thunder by a combined 20 points in the second half, by 16 in the fourth quarter. On the losing end of this matchup, the hometown Thunder were led in scoring by their starting point guard out of Kentucky, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He finished with 33 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and 5 turnovers in 30 minutes. He shot 14 for 21 from the field. He will go on to shoot 1 for 3 from 3, and he shot 4 for 5 from the foul line. Their starting power forward, Isaiah Roby, would finish with 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 3 steals in 37 minutes. He shot 7 for 15 from the field and 6 for 7 from the foul line. On the winning end of this matchup, the Minnesota Timberwolves were led in scoring by their elite starting center, Karl Anthony Towns, and then their center off the bench, Naz Reid. Towns finished with 20 points, 8 rebounds, 3 assists, and 3 steals in 25 minutes. He shot 7 for 12 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and 5 for 7 from the foul line. Reid finished with 20 points and 5 rebounds in 18 minutes. He would go on to shoot a perfect 8 for 8 from the field, a perfect 2 for 2 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the foul line. With this win, the Minnesota Timberwolves are now 35-29. That is the 7th best record in the Western Conference. They've won their last 3 games, and they've won 6 of their last 10. They trailed the 6th place Denver Nuggets by 2.5 games in the West. They sit a game and a half ahead of the 8th place LA Clippers. They trailed the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 16.5 games at the moment. With this loss, the Oklahoma City Thunder are 20-43. That is the 2nd worst record in the Western Conference. They've lost 7 of their last 10 games. They now trail the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans by 7 games in the conference outside of the play-in picture. Jumping out to the Mile High City, the Denver Nuggets hosted the Houston Rockets. The Nuggets beat the Rockets 116-101. They would win this game by 15 after outscoring the Rockets by 18 in the middle 2 quarters. On the losing end of this matchup, the Rockets were led in scoring by their starting center, Christian Wood. Wood finished with 22 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists in 31 minutes. He shot 7 for 12 from the field and a perfect 8 for 8 from the foul line. Their center off the bench, Alperen Sengun, finished with 11 points and 10 rebounds in 22 minutes. He shot 5 for 10 from the field. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Denver Nuggets were led in scoring by their starting center, DeMarcus Cousins. He finished with 31 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals, all in 24 minutes. He shot 10 for 14 from the field, 3 for 4 from 3, and 8 for 9 from the foul line. With this win, the Denver Nuggets are now 37-26. That is the 6th best record in the Western Conference. They've won 8 of their last 10 games. They sit a game behind the 5th place Dallas Mavericks. They sit 2.5 games ahead of the 7th place Minnesota Timberwolves. They trail the Western Conference leading Phoenix Suns by 14 games at the moment. With this loss, the Houston Rockets are now 15-48. That is the worst record in the Western Conference, and that is now the worst record in the NBA. They are now holding on to the longest active losing streak in the NBA as well, as they've lost their last 12 games. They are currently sitting 12 games behind the 10th place New Orleans Pelicans outside of the Western Conference play-in picture. Last but not least, jumping out to Phoenix, the team with the best record in the NBA, hosted the New York Knicks. The Suns beat the Knicks by 1. They won 115-114 after Cam Johnson's buzzer beater would win the game. The Suns would outscore the Knicks by 13 points in this 4th quarter to win this game by 1 to overcome their 12-point deficit. On the losing end of this matchup, the New York Knicks were led in scoring by their starting power forward, Julius Randle. He finished with 25 points and 7 rebounds in 28 minutes. He would go on to shoot 9 for 18 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the foul line. Their starting shooting guard out of Duke, RJ Barrett, finished with 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists in 44 minutes. He shot 6 for 26 from the field, and he would shoot 7 for 10 from the foul line. Their starting center, Mitchell Robinson, would go on to finish with 17 points, 15 rebounds, 4 steals, and 3 blocks in 37 minutes. He made all 8 of his field goals on the day, and he made 1 of his 2 free throws. On the winning end of this matchup, the hometown Phoenix Suns were led in scoring by their small forward off the bench out of UNC, Cameron Johnson. He finished with 38 points and 2 rebounds in 28 minutes. He shot 11 for 16 from the field, 9 for 12 from three, and he shot 7 for 8 from the foul line. Back in their starting lineup, their starting point guard Cameron Payne finished with 17 points and 16 assists in 32 minutes. He shot 6 for 16 from the field and 5 for 7 from the foul line. With this win, the Phoenix Suns are now 51-12. That is the best record in the NBA, as they're the only team that's won at least that's even won more than 43 games so far. They've won their last 2 games. They've won 8 of their last 10. They sit 8 games ahead of the second place Golden State Warriors in the Western Conference and in the NBA for that matter. And of course, with this loss, the New York Knicks are now 25-38. That is the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference. They've now lost their last 7 games. That is the longest active losing streak in the Eastern Conference. The Knicks they've lost 9 of their last 10 games. They are currently sitting 5.5 games behind the 10th place Charlotte Hornets in the East. That is what the NBA is looking like following yesterday's matchups. And then, of course, taking a look at what the NBA is looking like today. Because today is Saturday, the primetime matchup will be on ABC as the Los Angeles Lakers, who hold the 9th best record in the West, are going to host the Golden State Warriors, who have the 2nd best record in the NBA. The Lakers have lost their last 4 games, and they've lost 8 of their last 10. The Warriors have lost their last 3 games, and they've lost 7 of their last 10. Looking at the games that won't be on primetime at 5 o'clock, the Dallas Mavericks are going to host the Sacramento Kings in the American Airlines Center, as one more loss would, of course, mean a losing season for the Sacramento Kings this year. At 7 o'clock, the Charlotte Hornets are going to host the San Antonio Spurs in the Spectrum Center. At 8 o'clock, the Miami Heat are going to host the Philadelphia 76ers, as these are the 2 top teams in the East at the moment. At 8 o'clock, the Memphis Grizzlies are going to host the Orlando Magic in the FedEx Forum. And at the same time, at 8, the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to host the Portland Trailblazers at the Target Center. Taking a look now as we leave the North American continent and what's going on in Europe. First, starting off in Spain, the 2nd best team in the league, Sevilla, would end up drawing with Alaves. With this draw, Sevilla is still sitting 2nd in the table with 5 less points than Real Madrid, even though they've played 1 more game than Real Madrid, but they're sitting pretty comfortable there. And then in Italy, Inter Milan was able to beat Salernitana 5-0 as they would see a hat trick from their elite Argentinian forward, Lautaro Martinez. And they would also see a 5-minute brace from their striker, Edin Dzeko, in the second half. With this 5-goal win, Inter Milan now sits at the very top of Serie A with 1 more point than Napoli and Milan, who are literally tied for the 2nd most amount of points in the table. Taking a look at what's going on today in the world of soccer as we jump from league to league. Starting off in the English Premier League, it looks as though the top team that's going to be playing today will be Liverpool as they host West Ham at 12:30. Liverpool is sitting 6 points behind first place Man City as they've played 1 less game than Man City, so a game would move them a lot closer. The 3rd best team in the league, Chelsea, will go to Burnley at 10 o'clock. Chelsea, holding the 3rd best record in the Premier League, is sitting 10 points behind Liverpool with 1 less game played. And then taking a look at where Burnley's sitting, Burnley is the 3rd worst team in England at the moment. Taking a look at what's going on the continent itself, jumping next to Spain, Real Madrid, who sits at the very top of Spain, is going to host Real Sociedad at 3 o'clock. Real Madrid now sits 5 points ahead of 2nd place Sevilla with 1 less game played, now that Sevilla had picked up the draw. Taking a look at what is going on in France, PSG, who's sitting at the very top of France, is going to face off against Nice. Nice enters this matchup as the 3rd best team in France, so this will be a very closely watched matchup. Moving up the continent, in Italy, it looks as though Atalanta is going to face off against AS Roma at 12 o'clock. That's the big game there, as Atalanta and Roma are holding the 5th and 6th best records in Italy. In Germany, the defending champs Bayern Munich are going to host Bayer Leverkusen at 9:30 on ESPN2, so you get a sense of how well they're playing. They're sitting 8 points ahead of 2nd place Borussia Dortmund in Germany. So that's everything that I have for you as it comes to soccer. And with that said, once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are done, I'm going to come back tomorrow on Sunday, March 6th for another episode of The Elite. And until then, I want to thank everyone for listening. I do hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another episode episode. Until then, I want to apologize for butchering all the names, and I do want to thank the ESPN, NCAA, NBA, and FIFA websites for giving me all that I need. And with that said, I will actually come up with another episode right after this. But until tomorrow, thanks for listening. I hope all is well, and peace out.